Good morning. Glenn with War for the West back at you today. Want to have a conversation about what exactly Trump is up to, and I want to have it in a very particular way. I want to have a conversation, not say horrible things about Trump or have like a huge argument. I think we should have a conversation about this. I'm trying to make sense of what he's doing. I'm supportive of all of the kind of government reform efforts he's pressing. I'm a little more concerned about the national security things, but still, there's enough information here on what's been done that we can start to look at it and discuss it. So that's really what I wanted to do today. So let's get right into it. Let's start with his foreign policy and what we've seen so far. And let me say, I am not claiming this is a compendium of everything he's done. There's been so many EOs, so many actions taken. This is a sampling, but I think for the purpose of this conversation, it can work. Good morning. Having some coffee here. Hope you're having a good day. So let's talk about what foreign policy ideas Trump had talked about. We talked about ending useless wars. That's always been a thing of his ever since he dressed down, the other Bush. God, I can't remember those guys' name. Can you imagine those people being in power still, the Bushies and all that? It's so grotesque. By the way, the vestiges of all that, the residue of all that is what we're still fighting, right? It's disgusting. But, when you look at what Trump's up to, he talks about Mexico, and we're going to escalate there to get into a war with the cartels. Right now, by the way, what he's done is using the terrorist authority, nominating them as a terrorist organization, gives the government an authority to use what's called our Article 50 powers against the terrorists. That means our covert capabilities. Think CIA, think special forces like Delta, etc., who can work under Article 50 authority at times, and then special forces and operators that CIA has, that it can do that, can begin immediately against the cartels. And you can assume that action's already underway. You wouldn't necessarily hear about all of it right away. So that's an escalation, folks. It's a necessary escalation. I actually think, my personal view, I want to leave Europe, the Middle East, and Asia in large part, come back home, focus on this hemisphere, and help all our South American neighbors get the narco-terrorists and the international criminal organizations, which are thriving in South and Latin America, out. So I'm all about doing this, but this will be a massive war, folks. Just doing special operations hits is going to do nothing. The Mexican government needs to agree with us that they want to do this, or else we can't do it. We can't fix Mexico's cartel problem without the Mexican government's full cooperation and support for doing so. That's an extension. That's an expansion. Gaza is an expansion. I won't talk too much about that, other than to say 1.7 million Palestinians live in Gaza legally, and they have the right. They own that territory as a territory, and they have the right to live there and govern it. There is no legal right on earth for the United States to take Gaza to move Palestinians anywhere else. This is something that is very difficult for me to understand how Trump thinks this is viable, and it's certainly something I don't want to have anything to do with. I don't understand. We will become targets at home and abroad for jihadis and many terrorists for doing this, folks. So I'm deeply concerned, but that's an escalation. Ukraine, he's trapped himself. The problem is very simple. The Russians have all the advantage and they're winning, and Zelensky's in denial, and he believes that by delay he can survive and outlast Putin somehow. I don't really think it's well thought through, but Zelensky's demands for negotiation are ridiculous. Russia gives up all the territory it gained. Never going to happen. They're never going to give up Crimea. I guarantee you that. And certainly, why would they give up the territory in the east where Russians live and that they've gained through hard-fought war? At this stage of the game, I'm just not sure what he thinks. As well, he wants his it's a condition of any peace deal would be Ukraine joining NATO. Russia started the war because of talk of Ukraine joining NATO. Let me try and be clear about how crazy an idea that is from Zelensky. And what Zelensky's really telling you is two things right now. One, the status quo works for him, and two, he doesn't have a clue how to lead a nation at war or how to take care of his people. The ongoing war serves his political ends, believe it or not, as far as I can tell. Trump thought he could just come in and bully Putin a little bit, and Putin is unbullyable because they're winning and they've adjusted their economy, so the sanctions we're going to put on them aren't going to have any effect. So just on foreign policy alone, that's how we're doing. I think we need to talk more about this. I'm not so crazy about some of the things he's doing here, and I'm really I wonder how you feel about it. There's also this conversation of empire that's going on. Greenland is one thing, by the way. That idea comes from one of the tech bros who surrounded Trump, Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel had a venture company that he had put venture capital in, and its job, it was going out trying to buy land to form a private nation. A very interesting idea, by the way, which has, somebody with a libertarian bent and a freedom bent. I kind of like people trying that stuff, but that's why it got escalated as a priority so quickly. And that's my only objection. Putting the Greenland conversation out there so quickly without any kind of prefatory communication to American people about why this is important to us and why we'd make the case, and then going completely hostile with the Danes right away, just doesn't make any sense to me. But whatever. It looks like empire, by the way. The talk of Canada is insane. Annexing Canada, that's an act of war, folks. You don't just annex a country. Well, like, I hear people talk about something like, "Are you insane?" And people seem to people literally don't seem to know that Canada was formed by the Americans, the English, and the French, who didn't want to be part of the United States. They want to stay part of the Commonwealth. Canada is still part of the British Commonwealth. There's a long, rich history that Americans know nothing about. Canadians feel very attached to the British Commonwealth. Their military, one of the reasons people dismiss the Canadian military, that's a mistake. They have an excellent military for the size nation they are in certain ways. Not in all ways, right? Because they're wokeified. But they have fought in so many British campaigns around the world. They have a long tradition and history in some of the military units that are really quite talented. They were amazing during World War II, by the way, working with the Brits. The Camp X and all these other things they were doing that's amazing. And so people, the idea that Canada is going to join the U.S. voluntarily is completely insane. There's no support for that. There's a small number of people who are MAGA in Canada who might do that out west. The rest simply will not go. Quebec will never join the United States. Never. It's a French. This is such an ignorant thing to say. I don't know how else to say it to you. I don't want to be a jerk, but that's how I see it. On Panama, I think Panama is he's taken the right decision there. They violated the treaty by allowing the Chinese to get involved. We pay ridiculous fees. We get no preference there. And we built and paid for the damn thing. So we need to boot China out of South America utterly. By the way, they're in 80% of the countries already with serious trade deals and other deals, finance deals and diplomatic agreements and ports and all kinds of things. So we spent 20 years fighting halfway around the world, and we let the Chinese basically take over Latin America and sort of increase. They have a stronger presence in Latin America and South America than we have now, is the way to look at China. So yes, we need to take back Panama and do a lot else in that part of the world. He's also talked about the sovereign wealth fund. Folks, this is, I don't understand why we'd have a sovereign wealth fund. This is what nations have that own all their natural resources. So if you're a country that the way the government's set up, it owns all the oil and gas resources. Those are national assets. Certain Scandinavian countries, I think Finland is like that. Maybe I could be wrong, but some countries are like that in Europe. And basically, the government has a pile of money that they invest and in stock markets, and index funds and equities and bonds and. Like, you really want the U.S. to be a major player, the U.S. government to be buying and selling in the capital markets every day? I mean, I can't even start to think of why this would make sense. And what people have told me, I've looked into this, Trump wants to make money to pay off our debt. Huh. Okay, I need that explained to me, folks. Do you have any idea how rife with corruption that will instantly be seen as and will inevitably be, no matter who runs it? Like, you can't have a government figure saying, "Oh, I'm going to put $10 billion in some stock or sector," and not have that move markets, folks. It's a ridiculous idea that I don't understand. So again, I want to hear more about it, and I want to know what you think about it. I just can't believe it. He's gotten a good start on illegal immigration, but on legal immigration, look what he's done. He actually made the statement. I like both sides of the argument when he was pressed on it in a press conference. Why should we take great solace in that? Because he knows there's a big part of his base that sees a huge problem with all these foreign workers here taking jobs. Trump doesn't realize that they're taking American jobs. He thinks it just all works out and it's all good. He doesn't understand this. People in his administration are pressing him. Some of the rule changes we've seen already from USCIS and others are very favorable to constraining legal immigration and helping the American worker not compete with a foreigner for every damn job that they pursue. So he's making progress on this. We want to see more, but he also echoes huge support and makes statements for massively increasing foreign workers into the country. So we have to see how this plays out. And then let's talk about the reducing deficit and debt piece as a way to close out this video. So the first thing he's doing is he's trying to remove certain categories of income from taxation at all. That has to be done via bills, by the way. That can't be done via EOs. I don't think. I'm actually for a lot of this. I think taxing people who don't make much money is ridiculous. I think people who make under, like, I don't know what it is, 30, 40, 50 grand. I don't know what the number should be. I don't think, now they actually don't pay a lot of income tax. They're already off the income tax rolls, but they pay the payroll tax rolls and the sales taxes in some places, right? Not payroll tax, the payroll tax and the payroll taxes, Social Security, and Medicare, right? So they're paying those taxes no matter what. And in terms of income, you really don't pay much income tax at all in the first 20, 30,000, what you make anyway. And a lot of those people actually at lower levels qualify for an earned income tax credit. So just be careful about this. Taking overtime and everything else off of and Social Security out of it, great. It just reduces the amount of tax money we take in, so it makes the deficit worse. You got to see the overall plan, obviously, to weigh it all out. Mexico and Gaza wars, that's more spending. Cutting foreign assistance, folks, it's about 1.4% of the 2% of the total government. It's hard to figure out because USAID is not the only place foreign assistance comes from. But and we're not going to cut it all because we're still going to do some aid. And Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, made that clear. And the other thing I just want to be clear about: everybody's talking about, they're just sending money to their friends. That's not what's going on at all. There is some corruption in USAID, there's no doubt, like in any government program, and it is used by the CIA to advance many pernicious social goals in conjunction with USAID that maybe we don't even support, to overthrow countries like Ukraine. Was an NGO festival funded by USAID and other countries, actually, including the Dutch, to overthrow the Ukrainian government, and that's how we achieved a lot of that. That sort of bringing that all to a crescendo is because of USAID funding. So I'm not a big supporter of any of that, but almost all that spending was done with in the full view of Congress, approved by Congress. They amended bills, they made rule change, they passed new bills. Like the idea that the rest of the Congress doesn't know they were doing this and this money was going out the door is ridiculously absurd. Now some tried to do more oversight than others, but in the bills that they voted for, a lot of this was already approved. So don't be persuaded by this kind of. I think it's really kind of a trick that's being played by some folks that, oh my gosh, we didn't know this is all going on. Congress has been well aware of this abuse for decades, and it's not really abuse. It's how we do things. You have to we decided after World War II, and then formalized it in 1961 with the Foreign Assistance Act that USAID was born of, right? And the Foreign Assistance Act makes very clear the U.S. will do development aid and charitable aid and help people around the world in order to fight the communists in the Soviet Union and to project democracy and liberty around the world. It's a mission that our government staff, the government people, are given. And this is one of the things I want to press back on a little bit. With some of the rhetoric around this from the government types of people, the government is kind of sensible, because it's like, you told us to go do this stuff, and now you're just cutting it all off with no warning. And like, there is a legitimate gripe about the way they're taking this down. At the end, we're so screwed up now, I really don't care, as long as we cut spending massively. So I'm of two minds of this. I can understand that we should have process and we should talk about this rationally, and we shouldn't act like none of it was known that was going on. Like even the subscriptions things that are flowing around, the money going to Politico was for Politico Pro subscriptions, which do have a massive amount of data. And there are subscriptions like this in the business world, like Bloomberg and others, for intelligence and competitive intelligence, industry analysis. This kind of thing where you spend $5 to $10K a year on a subscription for an intelligence service, like public intelligence, not think about spying or anything. Like, in other words, understanding the information that you need to understand to operate with government and to work with our Congress and whatnot. That's what Politico Pro was doing. I think it's disgusting that the government had any subscriptions to it, right? Because Politico Pro is really about giving insiders an edge. And I don't think government should be doing that. But to pretend that was all money flowing to Politico to fund it, I think is to miss what's really going on. It's the insider game that Politico has created a platform to help them play that should gross us out. Right? And same thing with the New York Times subscriptions. They're not subsidizing the New York Times. They're subscribing to it, having the government pay for it. The government shouldn't pay for anybody's New York Times subscription. But you're getting the wrong impression. They're not just giving money out to their friends willy-nilly in a corrupt way. And this has been the mission of the U.S. government that many in our government had agreed to for a long time. The Republicans stopped talking honestly to us about this after the close of the Cold War. Our entire government doesn't talk honestly about this anymore because many of us assume when the Cold War is over, we could stop overthrowing countries. By the way, I don't think it was a good idea to begin with. So that's where we're at, folks. And I think Trump's got a lot on his plate. Look, I am so behind what he's doing in a general sense and directionally. And yeah, we're going to break a few, we're going to smash a few things as he tears everything down here. But at some point, this is going to have to become a little more rationalized, and he's going to have to communicate more completely to us about it, I think. So, anyway, those are my thoughts today. I hope this is helpful for you in thinking about some of the issues that are going on and engaging your mind in it, because that's really all I'm out to do here. And let's see where we go from here. Glenn with War for the West out, and I really hope you have a great day today, and thanks for listening. Bye.